Welcome to The Ripple, where extraordinary women executives get real about their career journeys. This season, we'll explore how these women think about building their personal brands so they can shine brightly for all to see. I'm your host, Ashley Laabs, and today we're joined by the confident Shantel Love. She's the Global VP of Customer Success at Pearson, keynote speaker, and the author of Promote Your Damn Self, the 3 personal branding mistakes to avoid that nearly destroyed my career. She's here to talk about how her personal brand became the safety net of her career and how to start building your reputation today. Shantel, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm really excited to have you on The Ripple.
I am so excited to be here, and thank you and your team for continuing to do the work when it's so hard to do the work. So thank you.
We're all doing the work. We're all doing our best.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk to you because I'm really excited about the book that you just came out with recently, Promote Your Damn Self.
Yes.
I think that we all need to be doing this. We're all getting in our own way. And something that I really appreciate about your book is that it's coming from the perspective of somebody who's put themselves out there and made mistakes.
Yes.
I think so often we hear the polished, finished version, and the advice that people want to give is what you need to do. And it's not often that we hear what you need to not do. Yeah, so tell me about what it was like for you in the beginning of this journey of building visibility for yourself. What was it like to do this, and why was it important to you?
Yeah, I think it's important to start with my passion. And my passion actually started from learning it the wrong way and the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about my career spans over 2 decades of managing teams and 2 decades of sales and negotiating well over $1 billion, B as in brilliant, $1 billion in revenue. But there was a point in my career where although I've managed $1 billion in revenue, I could not negotiate a 10% pay increase. And I found myself in a space where I was a high performer and I got laid off, no personal brand, no safety net, no leverage. I had to learn the hard way of pulling myself up from the bottom, understanding that it wasn't me. It's just something that I hadn't been taught or I didn't learn. And I set out on a mission to learn that on my own. And through that journey of learning, I was able to empower and teach other professionals, especially women and people of color, how to do the same, how to become visible, how to get out of their head and into their purpose, and how not to be defined just by a job title or a company. And now I get to teach professionals visibility and personal branding before they need it, before it's too late, before they get laid off or get burnt out or overlooked. And that's important to me because I've been through every single step there. And I know visibility isn't easy, but it's necessary.
Yeah, it is necessary. And I like the way that you put it as a security net. And you're describing it also as something that is proactive, not just if you're trying to build a business, but if you're trying to build a career. I think that so many people think about personal brand as something you need when you're an entrepreneur or when you're working on a side hustle or when maybe you're an employee somewhere, but you want to be a speaker,
Yes.
right? And the way that you're describing it is that it doesn't matter what you're trying to do, that having a personal brand, having a reputation is essential.
It is very essential. And especially when you think about the job market today versus what was it 14 years ago when I got laid off, most people are in remote environments.
Mm-hmm.
And in remote environments, you become invisible if you don't put yourself out there. And I find myself talking to a lot of professionals who did not know how to navigate that new space, if you will, and are still trying to figure out how to navigate that new space with all of the changes that are happening in policies, changes that are happening in their leadership capability, changes that are happening with AI and things of that nature. So with that being said, it's not just for becoming a thought leader or positioning yourself for LinkedIn or your side hustle. That is fine. It does serve as a foundation for that. But that's not the only thing or only space where that visibility is important.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And I want to talk about, early on in your journey, when you realized this was going to be important for you. It sounds like, you made some mistakes, which means you took some risks, right? What felt risky in the process of building your own visibility for yourself and for your career?
Oh, that's a really good question. It's a big question. And if I if I'm being honest, what felt like the riskiest moment in my career was actually developing my personal brand while employed. So being
Mm.
employed and building a personal brand, I went through the thoughts of what if my boss sees me, or what if he thinks I'm looking for another job? What will my colleagues think of me? Will they deem me building my personal brand as being ineffective or less committed to my organization? All of those thoughts went through my head. But the truth that I ended up settling in is it's not about leaving. It's my professional insurance, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I often hear and see people on social network, they say, like, your social media and your social media platforms are yours. They're not your bosses. And I believe that to an extent. And I say that because what I've learned in doing this work is that people are terrified about posting about their job successes. They're terrified about posting about their side hustles, but they'll happily post themselves hanging off a chandelier after 3 margaritas. Like, make that make sense for me. Okay. And I say that because the truth is, you're more likely to get in trouble posting something that contradicts your company's values than you are sharing your expertise, right? And
Yeah.
that's why I teach my clients to start off with what I refer to as the employer social media DNA audit. And basically, what that means is if you're afraid to build your personal brand, you're often afraid of the consequences. So you need to arm yourself with the answers. And that looks like reading your company's tone, your company's values, your company's policies, and even reading the handbook. And what I also encourage is to have an adult conversation and talk to HR. And once you get to the point and you know your guardrails, you have an understanding of whatever that voice was saying in your head, you have something to question the merit of that voice. And once you know your safe zones, you can create what I call a corporate personal overlap map, where you will pick 3 to 5 topics that benefits both your employer and it benefits your brand. And when I think about doing this, one of my clients actually did this exact strategy in a training, and she grew her side hustle and her career. She got promoted at the same time she was building her personal brand and building her side hustle. Because what ended up happening, her leadership team, they saw her as an industry thought leader and
Mm-hmm.
not a threat. And if I were to give like some really quick tips for those who are listening, in addition to understanding your company's policies and reading the handbook and having a conversation with HR, you want to, one, align your content with expertise, not your exit plan. You want to also lead with thought leadership, not job hunting. And you want to know your company's policies before you post. And I wish I had more time because I could talk about this until I'm blue in the face, but I have a masterclass coming up that teaches you 100 days of visibility so that you can get an entire laid out roadmap to take ownership of your career without putting it at risk. I think it's critical to arm yourself with the tools and understand that you are your insurance policy in your career, no one else.
Yes, absolutely. This reminds me of something that I've heard that's actually relationship advice. And I think, relationships are relationships. It doesn't matter if they're romantic or if they're professional. We're all just people, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that they said was, who benefits from my lack of boundaries? Who benefits from my silence? Right?
Yes.
And I think that you're so right on when you talk about a lot of people preventing themselves from building their personal brand because in the short term, they are very worried about destabilizing their status quo, right? They're really worried about creating insecurity now in order to create security later. And I think that all of your advice is so great for reading the company handbook and having those conversations with HR. But at the end of the day, there are some places that will be insecure about it, that will see it as a threat no matter what you say and no matter what the rules say. And, we have to confront those moments of misalignment
Yes.
and say, like, hey, if a place does not want you to share your expertise, as long as you're not revealing company secrets or something,
Right.
if you are acting respectfully and they don't want you to be posting on LinkedIn, they don't want you to have a personal brand, they don't want you to share your thoughts online, well, this is a place that's trying to benefit from your silence and your lack of boundaries if you let them.
Yes.
And, that's really good intel about where you're at.
I'm so glad that you said that, for the record, and I approve that message, for the record. I think of it in two buckets. There's this phrase that I typically say when I am on stages speaking to audiences, specifically women, is that you deserve to be in every room, but every room doesn't deserve you. And when you get to that crossroad, you honestly have to decide, like, is this the place for me? Or what am I willing to put up with or tolerate? And why am I tolerating it? And really have to search yourself to get those answers. And then also, given the fact that I am in both worlds, I'm an entrepreneur and I am a global vice president at Pearson, I will say that I don't pull the wool over my company's eyes. And I've been there for 11 years. And day one, I made them aware that I had a portfolio career, which meant I worked my full-time job and I had something on the side. And although I do it, I also encourage my team members to do it. And I'm going to say why. By them building their personal brand or having a side hustle, the skills that they've acquired from that side hustle and building that personal brand benefits me as a leader and benefits our organization. The reason why I have the highest employee engagement scores according to Gallup is because I see people before I see our performance. And when you connect to people on that level where things are valuable for them and to them, they work harder. When they see the alignment, people work for impact. So the impact that they're making outside of their 9 to 5, if they can merge those worlds together, it reveals superhuman employees. And it's shown in every single organization that I've been a part of. When you reveal to them that they have the permission to bring their authentic self to work and use those skills to benefit a cause or impact an organization or a piece of the business, they find themselves not just an employee, but attached to impact and a purpose. So I know that my world is completely different and I view it as privilege in some regards, but to be able to work with a company that has rules that you can follow, that allows you to put your best foot forward, bring the skills that you've acquired in every single facet to benefit something greater than yourself, why not?
Hey, listeners. We've heard from a lot of women this season who are growing and scaling businesses, so we know it's not easy. If you've got a team that's growing fast or merging with another, that can feel really exciting, but then you're staring down two MarTech stacks that don't play nicely together. This is where GNW Consulting comes in. They help marketing teams sort through the mess, mapping out what to keep, what to streamline, and how to make it all actually work together. Think of them as your behind-the-scenes problem solvers, bringing strategy and then rolling up their sleeves for the execution. Plus, they're a supporter of Wednesday Women and our mission to amplify women execs. So if you're in the middle of a messy merger or it's on the horizon, head to gnwconsulting.com to learn more and see how they're helping marketing leaders move faster and smarter. I totally agree. And anytime that we are hiding parts of ourselves, that's not advantageous to our teams, to our companies, right?
Yeah.
And yet, so often we see people who have portfolio careers and we can kind of negatively judge that and feel like they're less dedicated or whatever. And so I love the reframing, the encouragement, the permission to say, hey, develop your skills, develop what you're passionate about, and bring that here too. And I'm curious what you notice either in yourself now that you've been doing this for such a long time or in your teams when they're doing this. What are the strengths that you think it brings to the work?
First and foremost, I will say that number one is confidence. And I truly believe that confidence is currency. Oftentimes, when you're looking for a new job or a new role, the first thing most people do is they do an audit of the overall job description and they identify what they have that aligns with the job description versus what they do not have. When you're going out to build your brand for the first time or building a side hustle for the first time, there's a lot of things that you do not have. And you start to build that confidence by way of belief or faith and or community, a community that pushes you, a community that inspires you, a community that doesn't gatekeep and is revealing things to you that you may not have had access to. And when you bring that confidence, that be a newfound, cemented confidence into the workplace, it only reveals and knocks down the walls of the things that you believe you could not do. And there have been many instances where I've seen employees in my organization that I've worked with, that I've mentored, that I've coached, where we would start off and they would often have this aura about themselves, about where they want to go. And then they would start to reveal the things that they cannot do. So when I have them do these projects or tasks or exercises to find passion outside of their 9 to 5, and they begin to reveal that, hold on, wait a minute. It's not that I couldn't do, it's because I never had the opportunity to do. And that confidence just contributes to peak performance. That confidence contributes to partnering and mentoring and sharing ideas. That confidence contributes to innovation where they feel as though, okay, I'm going to share an idea that may not connect to everyone, but I'm going to give it a try. And it fosters an environment where others are like, well, she decided to say something that was out of the box. Let me try to share my out of the box idea. So I would say number one, confidence, and it becomes currency in organization and in your life, in your business, in your side hustle. It just becomes something that's truly invaluable.
Yeah. Confidence is something so many of us are missing. I think even when we've accomplished great things, and I see that all the time talking to women leaders who don't feel confident showing up as themselves, posting something on LinkedIn, sharing what they think, being at the table.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And what I'm also hearing in your answer is a lot of agency and just awareness of the agency that you have and that you've always had, right? Because going out there and creating something for yourself and, having all the responsibility for that probably makes it easy for people to come back into the organization and see the opportunity and want to be responsible for it or see that they can affect change. Is that something you notice very much?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's because you're in so many ways, you're in a space where a lot of people are afraid to go. And what I mean by that is what I've learned in this journey of climbing the corporate ladder, starting multiple businesses. I'm the first to do it in my family. So I find myself in a space where I am doubting my doubts. In a space where I am not afraid to try and understanding that if I try and I'm not successful, that I'm not a failure. And I see the same with the people that are in my organization, on my team, the clients that I've had the privilege to coach, is that you break down some of those social constructs, right, that may have been passed on to you or projected onto you, that you're not defined by someone else's expectations, and you can, in so many ways, create what that expectation looks like for yourself.
I think that's great advice. And I'm curious from your own experience doing this, was it ever a struggle for you to be a beginner at putting yourself out there. I know there are a lot of leaders who feel like experts at what they do, and then the minute they go to post something on LinkedIn or take the stage for the first time, they just want to stop themselves from doing it because they don't want to be a beginner and have everybody think that they're not the expert that they are. Was that ever a struggle for you?
I would say yes. I'm going to be honest. Yes, it was. But what I had to accept is that a part of growth is learning. And, and I'm fortunate to have a 7-year-old son because I see him learning new things on a daily basis. And it puts me in a space where it's like, whoa, how often am I giving myself the opportunity to learn something new and to give myself a chance? And I will say, admittedly, I am the queen of the rebrand. I rebrand every opportunity I get. And one of the things that I've learned from one of my coaches was to do something that's hard every single day. And that hard for me at one point in time was going to a cryo chamber and trying to survive the cryo chamber for longer than 30 seconds. And I would start with 30 seconds and then go to 31 seconds and
Okay, you
32 seconds,
wait
right?
a minute. You got to tell me what is this experience like? Can you please say more about this?
Yes, yeah. So it's excruciating, it's horrible, it's not great, but the experience is important for a couple of reasons. What I realized as a speaker, as a mother, as an executive, your nervous system gets used to responding to certain things because you set up these barriers in your mind that you can't do. And the more that I went to that cryo chamber, although I went in with the verbal notion of saying, I cannot do this longer than, I created that barrier for myself. And when I started to say, I'll just do 1 second longer than what I've done before, I retrained my mind that I can do this more. And I started to do that more. The cryo chamber was one thing. Running, I hated running, but I wanted to prove to myself that I could run. The other thing recently, I am at this big old age of 39. I just learned how to swim. And I remember learning how to swim right before my swim class. I had one-on-one private lessons. There were 4 and 5-year-olds that were jumping into the deep end fearlessly. And I was jealous of 4 and 5-year-olds. And I told myself that while I was learning to swim and my swim instructor was, I think, 16 or 17, at any point in life, you can learn. You have to understand that your starting point is just that. It's the starting point. But if you allow yourself to continue to go on that journey, that starting point will be the oldest point, oldest period, oldest memory that you have because you are creating and curating new memories for yourself, building new muscles, retraining your nervous system about what's possible and what's not possible, where you don't have to worry so much about learning something new. It's actually a part of life and part of growing. If you're not learning, you're not growing. And I remember Dr. Carol Dweck in the book Mindset. She said that the moment that you tell yourself that you can't, your mind stops looking for options other than not doing. So you shut yourself down by saying, I can't, because
Yeah.
your mind just shuts down. So if you reframe that, and instead of saying, I am trying, I am learning, I will try to do 1% better than I've done the day before, you're training your mind on what's possible. So yes, I get to points where learning feels uncomfortable and I don't want to do it or I'm psyching myself out, but I have to remind myself that that's just a phase of life, a phase of growth.
I think that challenging yourself to learn is a wonderful thing to do, and seeing your son as a role model in that is really sweet, and seeing those 4 and 5-year-olds jumping in as role models is really sweet, and it sounds like you're challenging yourself in some really exciting ways. I don't know if I would have put myself in a cryo chamber. I'm gonna have to look into this because I've literally never heard of that.
It is otherworldly, I will say that.
Yeah, did you feel like you were in a sci-fi movie?
Yeah, I kind of like, I went with a friend and it was so interesting. The first time I went, it felt like when I went in, my body was shocked. And I'm like, what am I doing? And you want to run out, but you cannot run out. And then when you're finished, it feels like needles are in your legs, but that only lasts for a second. And
Oh
then you
man.
move on, right? So it is a very interesting experience, to
Is
say
that
the
supposed
least.
to be like cold plunge? Is
Yes, kind of like that. It feels similar to that.
okay, you're just dry at the end.
Yes, yes,
That sounds all right.
yes.
Okay, really fascinating. I want to ask you one more question for the women out there who want to build their reputation without sacrificing who they are, who are ready to learn and put themselves out there. What advice would you have for them?
I love this question. I've actually found myself talking about, building a reputation and personal branding before I even knew what it was. And for me, it's never been about logos or photo shoots or hashtags. It's about legacy. And I remember telling a colleague, a very brilliant, sharp, educated Black woman, that she was way too qualified to be a manager. And I respected her so much that I started saying her name in rooms that she wasn't invited into yet. And I didn't just speak her name, I sponsored her. And I remember telling her about a vice president role that she should apply for. And she was kind of apprehensive about it, very apprehensive about it, because it meant her skipping what people felt was the traditional path. So she would
Right.
go from manager, skipping senior manager, director, senior director, and going straight to VP. And that really felt unheard of. And she didn't think that she was ready, but I let her borrow my confidence. And she found her own eventually. And fast forward, she ended up getting that job and has been very successful. And now she's an amazing role model for many other women, and specifically her now 3-year-old daughter. And it's not just women that I've been able to support. I've also supported my former manager, who's a middle-aged white male, who's 2 levels above me. I helped him to go through his first CEO interview. And that's what personal branding looks like to me. It looks like building a powerful platform that others can stand on too. So if you are in a space where you are wanting to gain more visibility, where you're wanting to put yourself out there, where you're wanting to showcase and vocalize your value, I would encourage you to do these 3 things. First and foremost, I would encourage you to, 1, celebrate your accomplishments authentically. And what I mean by that is sometimes we can say, hey, I just got promoted, but I really don't want to tell anyone that I got promoted. Do it and tell the world, because it's a fact. And sometimes we can get into our feelings of being too much, being too overwhelming, being in this space where you're boasting. But the fact of the matter is that you are successful and you've ascended and you've gotten to a point where many people want to be it in an individual contributor type capacity, an executive leadership capacity, be it you put yourself out there to say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. But you want to celebrate yourself authentically and celebrate yourself loud. The other thing that I would say is embrace you. When I think about your reputation and putting yourself out there, and personal branding specifically, it's called personal branding for a reason. It's personal and it's an inside job. So what I say about this in my CEO framework, celebrate your accomplishments and embrace your story. Embrace your story, all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, and work through it and own it, because every piece of that makes you who you are, regardless of what anyone else thinks about it. And if you can get to the point where you own your story, no one can weaponize it against you as you're growing, as you're expanding, as you're getting to the next level. And then the O in the CEO framework is to own your continuous improvement. You should always be working on improving yourself. And I know it can sound selfish, but the biggest investment that you can make is in yourself, because it has the highest return on investment. When you invest in your mental health, when you invest in your self-care, when you invest in your education, as a consequence, anyone who's in your immediate circle and anyone who comes in proximity to you benefits from the improvement that you're making in yourself. So I would say that if you're looking to put yourself out there, looking to grow your reputation, look at your facts first. Own your facts and look at your facts from the perspective, is this a fact or am I in my feelings? right? And then from that perspective as well, I really encourage you to just empower yourself. Take baby steps. You don't necessarily have to be on the cover of Forbes magazine tomorrow. But if you're taking those little incremental steps toward gaining your confidence and reclaiming your power, that's exactly where you start. Own your power first, and then everything else will come to you as a consequence.
That is like a small book of really great advice right there. So thank you so much, Shantel. It's always such a pleasure talking to you. And again, Chantel's going to have a workshop coming up, so you should join her for that. Follow her on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story with us. It's so powerful.
Oh, thank you as well. It's always great connecting with you and Wednesday Women, but I look forward to staying in touch.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have you. Now that we're at the end of today's episode, take a moment to reflect on how Chantel's story might inspire your own. You deserve to be in every room, but not every room deserves you. What rooms are you in that don't deserve you? And when are you convincing yourself that you can't do something instead of looking for options? If today's show inspired you, tell us about it. Send an email or a voice memo to team@wednesdaywomen.org. Or consider leaving a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. Your ratings help us grow and inspire even more people. If you know an extraordinary woman leader, let her know about the Wednesday Women Executive Membership. It's a safe space for executive women to tackle any challenge, ask questions, and uplift others. You can learn more at wednesdaywomen.org. And thank you to our executive producers, Melissa Moody and Leslie Greenwood, and a round of applause for our technical producer, Yelena Georgievich. I'm your host, Ashley Laabs, hoping this small ripple creates a big wave in your life. Until next time.